Well, hello, welcome back to Heart Survivor. Today we're going to talk about COVID isolation. So if you are so lucky as to get COVID, you probably want to isolate yourself to prevent others in the house from getting sick. And you'll probably begin doing that at the point where you test positive, maybe a little bit before, but once you test positive, you're probably going to want to limit your exposure to others. So the problem with that is that by the time you realize you need to go into isolation, it's kind of too late for you to do much in the way of preparing for it. You can't go out to buy stuff. You can't go out, to get tools or whatever you need. So it's important to prepare ahead of time. And this video is going to give you some things to think about in order to maybe help get yourself ready in the event that you do get COVID. First of all, I want to emphasize that everybody's situation is different. Everybody has a different living arrangement. The point is you can only work with what you have. And the best thing to do is to think about some of these things ahead of time, decide what things you need to prepare for, and have it ready to go. Once you get sick, it's really a little bit too late to start preparations. You are going to feel bad, by the time you realize you're sick, by the time you realize you test positive, you're going to be feeling pretty bad and not really wanting to go and do a lot of preparations or feeling up to it. What you need to do is remember that, you may not even be thinking straight at that point. COVID does affect your mind a little bit, and it's hard to think through problems. So let's think about these things up front a little bit. The goal is to protect your family and help yourself too, because if your family is feeling uncomfortable, they're not going to be able to support you as well. You don't want to get them in a situation where they have to take any unnecessary risk. It's up to you to make that happen. You need to select the space in your house where you're going to isolate. Now, preferably that's in your bedroom, and preferably there's a bathroom attached to it, and it can be separate from the rest of the house to some extent. I understand not everybody has that capability, but that's probably the most ideal situation, next to having an apartment out back in the backyard or something like that. So you want to be able to plan your activities and pre-stock the things that you're going to need for isolation, and do that ahead of time. There really isn't any need to spread this bug around. If you pass this on to your family, they're going to need to isolate, and you'll have 2 isolations in the house. Or maybe everybody will get it and all of you can isolate together. But the other folks in the house are going to be your support infrastructure, providing meals or other things that you need, going out and getting medicine. You want them to stay well. You need to remember also that COVID is a serious problem, and you want to protect others from getting this bug. Some of the things to consider regarding your isolation is that you're going to be in there for a while, 2 weeks potentially, maybe even longer, maybe 3. So you need a spot that has the ability to ventilate. And I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. Preferably it's your own bedroom. You got your own bed, your private bathroom if possible, a workspace, entertainment, a television, able to get your own Netflix and stuff like that. And you're going to want cleaning supplies and medical supplies, an O2 monitor it goes on your finger, over-the-counter meds that you would normally use for the flu, although I don't recommend taking a lot of that stuff, but you may need to. So let's talk about ventilation. So you've got to isolate your area where you're at from the rest of the residents. That means don't allow the air to go from your room back into the rest of the house. this is especially true if you have a central AC unit or central heat. Maybe if you have radiator type heat, it's not as big a problem. The idea is to prevent the air from going back, because this bug is spread through droplets in the air. So you want to try to create a negative pressure space in your isolation area. We'll talk more about that. So you want to close off the air ducts, and this is going to be focusing on houses with central air and heat, and only leave them open as needed to keep comfortable. So if you have a return duct in your space, then you want to tape that off. So you definitely don't want that to be active. You can use whatever method you can have available to seal that off and reduce the amount of air going back into the rest of the house. One of the things that I find helpful, a product called aluminum duct tape. It's actually aluminum metal with adhesive on it. The HVAC guys use that. It's actually very good for this type of thing. It goes on, and unlike duct tape, it will come off without leaving a residue behind or tearing the paint off and that sort of thing. So it seems to be just the right kind of tape for doing this thing. Depending on the weather outside, you may not be so lucky to have weather that you can just open all the doors and windows and to the outside and be comfortable. So you may need an auxiliary heater or AC, depending on the season. And in order to create the negative pressure in your isolation space, you might want to consider a box fan to blow air out of a window. You can also use the ventilation fans in the bathroom, although they don't really blow that much air. It's another option. You might want to look at your door to see if you need to create some sort of blockage, especially around the bottom of that door where there may be a gap. So I used a towel in my case. So the AC return vent, I had the aluminum tape, and I used some foil-backed Christmas wrap paper, which appeared to be pretty good at blocking air, and the foil's on the backside. So I just cut a piece out like that and then taped it up. And I was lucky enough to have had a ladder in my room, which allowed me to get up there. So I didn't have to go out and get a ladder and figure out how to get up to the vent. And yes, I see the water spot up there. I've got a leak up in the attic, which I've addressed already, but thanks for noticing. So let's here's a situation where I have a air vent in the room, and I've just closed that off. This isn't going to really eliminate all the air, but the air comes out this vent. So this doesn't really do anything except supply you with air from the house, from the rest of the house, which you may need some anyway in order to get the heat or the cool that you need to stay comfortable. But remember, if you push air in to here from the house, it's going to try to find its way back into the house through whatever method it can, under the door or around the door or whatever. So that's why it's important to have the fan blowing air out. So here's a supplemental heater, which I used, and you can see the towel by the door there to keep air from going back under that door and into the remainder of the house. I also had a supplemental AC unit if it happened to be hot outside. I could have turned this on. This is, a window unit, which we use here in Florida for backup during hurricane season, but it could also be used to provide cooling without impacting the rest of the house. Here's a box fan I put in my bathroom and just had that running the whole time to blow air out the window to create that negative pressure. Towards the end, I just used the exhaust fans in the bathroom. So food. So let's not worry so much about your diet now. You're going to have someone else making your food. It's important to eat a healthy and well-balanced diet. You're trying to recover from a sickness. If you gain a few pounds, so be it. I was laid up in bed for 2 weeks, in isolation for 3 weeks in my case. Couldn't exercise all that much. Ended up gaining about 4 or 5 pounds of weight in that time. I ate normal food. I didn't worry so much about cholesterol and that sort of stuff as much, and tried to keep my energy up so that I could fight off the bug. How you can eat? Have someone bring your food to you on a tray. Leave it by your door. Once they're clear the door, just open it up and get your food. When you're done eating, you want to disinfect your hands, wipe down the tray, wash all the dishes in the bathroom sink. I use Clorox cleanup on everything to achieve this, to disinfect everything, and then returned everything on the tray back outside the door. So the person that's taking care of that will need to rewash all the dishes, get the Clorox cleanup off, and then keep them separate from the rest of the dishes so that you can reuse those dishes and not worry about cross-contamination. So your meds and supplies. So you're going to want to have a stockpile of COVID tests. You can order them free at covid.gov. You want to have over-the-counter meds. But in my case, I believe that, they say, okay, take some aspirin or Tylenol to lower the fever. But I believe the fever is there for a reason, and it helps your body's immune system operate correctly to fight off the bug. So in my case, I didn't really take any of that. I did take some Benadryl to clear up the congestion and to help me sleep a little bit. Plan how you're going to get your other meds. So someone's got to make a run to the drugstore. Make sure that can be done. Contact your doctor and talk about your meds. If you get on Paxlovid, it's going to be important to make sure they understand what you're on. There's a lot of interactions between Paxlovid and some of the heart meds that you're likely on. I believe most of the statins. The way Paxlovid works is it blocks the liver from being able to process a lot of meds and get rid of them out of your system. So I think the risk is that you can overdose on some of these meds after taking Paxlovid for a while. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that that's clear. So have a thermometer on hand, a pulse oximeter, that you know how it works. Keep track of that. Make sure your percentage doesn't go below 96 or so. When you're down in the 95, 94 range, it starts to get into an area where you could be a little bit concerned about it. You might talk with your doctor. Cough drops. I don't normally eat this sort of thing, but they work pretty good in this case. The Hall's Honey Lemon Menthol was great. N95 mask, have some of those around. So cleaning supplies, I mentioned before, I had used Clorox cleanup. It's pretty handy. Doesn't really mess up your hands too much. So it seems like a good balance. But the Clorox in there is going to disinfect anything that you move in and out of your isolation area. So here's your pulse oximeter. This one I recommend. It's not very expensive. You should have one of these anyway. This is on Amazon. It's one of their best sellers. I've had mine for several years now. It seems to work great. The laundry. So you're going to go through a little bit of laundry, and it could get a little messy, especially if you get night sweats. So when you get this load of laundry, come up with a plan to get that laundry in the washer, which is in a different part of the house, and have some Lysol laundry disinfectant on hand to add to the washer. So in my case, I was able to get out to the backyard and around the house and then in the garage, into the laundry room, and I could dump my clothes into the washer and then leave. And then the wife was able to go in and add the soap and the disinfectant and get the washer turned on. So track your progress. Get on the computer, use an Excel spreadsheet or whatever to track your symptoms day by day. You're going to forget what they were 3 days ago. you're not going to remember. So track them every day. This will be real helpful if you talk to your doctor. You can explain exactly where you are in the sickness and use that to compare where you're at to where you might think you're supposed to be. So I had a spreadsheet where I tracked, some symptoms. I gave each one a number eventually here of 0 to 5. And that allowed me to eventually plot out the symptoms over time. And if you're interested in seeing the chart that resulted from that, that's on my other video. Your daily activities, you're in isolation, you're trying to do stuff. So let me tell you what, you're not going to feel like doing stuff. You're going to need your energy. So don't expect to feel like being able to work. You're not going to be able to work from home very effectively. Take the time off, save your energy. It's not the time to go out in the backyard and exercise or run, even walk very far. It's a time to save your energy and try to recover from the bug. Keep up with your hygiene. Take your baths. A hot bath might be a good thing. Help get your body temperature up. If you watch medcrim.com or his YouTube channel, he'll talk about hot baths and saunas and how they might be helpful. But don't let yourself get dehydrated. Get your rest, save your energy. It's going to be taken from you. The dog. Don't let the dog in. You can pass the bug through the pets. So it's tough, but you're going to have to let Fido and Fluffy stay outside your room. So try to figure out how you can get out of your room. After a couple of weeks, you really start to feel kind of like antsy about how can I get out of here? But ideally, you have a way out of this space so you can go out in the backyard, get some sunlight and fresh air, and time out of isolation. So thanks for watching. Stay positive and track your progress to make sure that you're keeping up with how you're doing. Make sure you're staying out of trouble, and chances are that you're going to be just fine and recover in a normal time frame. So thanks again, and take care.